All right, we're getting a little bit closer here to Selection Sunday in college basketball, but my goodness, what a loaded card here tonight on this Wednesday now, March 6th in college hoops. And we've got two of the best here. They're going to break down 4 games for you guys, including a couple of best bets, and you're going to want to hear what they have to say as they continue to rack up the W's here on the hardwood as we welcome back in Brian Leonard in the house. Adam Trigger with a well, look at the jersey and you'll have a pretty good idea on the sweatshirt of exactly where he might be leaning here tonight. And guys, love it here. It's getting to be crunch time here, end of regular season for some. Conference tournaments already underway. We got a couple of more kicking off tonight, so it's a good time in college hoops here, and we're going to start with one of the good games here tonight, back in the Big 12. Brian Leonard, you're going to break down BYU at Iowa State. 7.5 is what we're seeing. Iowa State nearly darn unbeatable at home here. Is there any chance you think BYU can go in there to Iowa and handle business?
Yeah, you got two of the strongest home courts in college basketball. So it's been a situation where you try to pick the home road dichotomy out of these teams, and I think we might have had some value here. The Cougars of BYU entered tonight 21-8, 9-7 in their first year in Big 12 play, and at least in my opinion, they've overperformed what many Big 12 experts expected. They thought when they got into a big conference like this that they'd struggle, but BYU's having a really nice season. As usual, it's because of their home court dominance, which has been especially big in the first year in this league. And teams aren't used to playing in BYU and their altitude advantage. And it's been a big moneymaker for those who are smart enough to bet on BYU in conference play here. We'll see something similar to when the Big 10 teams, they used to be in the Pac-10, Pac-12, whatever they're calling it now. When they make those long trips, I think the advantage is going to be very big for the home teams in that. So we'll see if we get those in at pretty good numbers. But, this game is being played on the road where the Cougars are just 3-6 on the season. Their latest road win was an impressive 76-68 shocker at Kansas just over a week ago. So that's going to keep the Iowa State coaching staff excited about this one, getting their team. Hey, don't look at these guys. They may only be 3-6 on the road, but they just beat Kansas on the road. So you always like something like that if you like the home team. Make sure that team is prepared. Cyclones lost their earlier meeting in Utah, 87-72. That was the largest Iowa State loss in Big 12 action this season. So they're looking to revenge their biggest loss in conference. And as you mentioned, Joe, this team has just been dominant at home, 17-0, straight up at home this year. And I look for that home road dichotomy at BYU to show a little bit here. Iowa State's taking a little bit of money, but I still like them at the current number. We're laying 7.5 here, 7.5 with Iowa State over BYU.
All right, I like it. Can't go wrong there. Back in Iowa State, expecting them to handle business at home here tonight. That's one of the big games, of course, we're going to be keeping an eye on tonight here on a loaded slate. And Adam Trigger, this too, also a big game breakdown of epic proportions for some here, as UConn will be taking on Marquette in a Big East battle here. And Marquette was so close without Kolek to pulling out the upset just a game ago here. UConn, I think, pretty much just wraps everything up at this point here. But how are you approaching this game tonight?
Yeah, so on WagerTalk today, I did give a pick for this game. I will come back to that by the end of this breakdown. But the nice part about this show is, we can give a really like a more of an overview of a big game, which is what we have here. And so I'm just going to kind of give the info and some of the stuff I've seen by seeing these teams play and kind of let you make your own decision. But I will tilt it for both side and total. So I'll just be honest, Joe, I wanted to play Marquette here. Like a couple weeks ago and kind of knowing it, when they lost the game out in Hartford and knowing this spot was coming up, I thought Marquette would maybe be the play. I was just at I was just in stores for UConn's most recent game over the weekend. They looked awesome, but they also clinched the Big East in that game. And this spot is reminiscent of, UConn's midweek trip to Creighton a week or so ago. Where they they went out as a small underdog and sort of never led and were run out of the building in that game. But of course, Tyler Kolek's out. That is a big deal. Iguodaro has been sick. He's practiced. He's probably going to play. But I think you have to take that into consideration, and it kind of has me leaning more towards the over. So I got to see this matchup last year, and one of the things I noticed is Shaka Smart did not want to press UConn because UConn's guards were so good, and they just went bang, 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 broke the press, and got an easy bucket out of it. Probably did it 4 times down the floor before he was like, oh, well, we can't do that against this UConn team. But I think Shaka's going to be a little bit desperate here without Kolek, like knowing he doesn't have Kolek and he's got to do something to shake it up. I think he might go the route of trying to press UConn right out of the gate and hope that UConn is a little bit asleep at the wheel because, again, they just won by 30 over the weekend. They clinched the Big East. In the grand scheme of things, Joe, this is kind of a meaningless game for UConn. Now, I mean, it's tough to call a top 10, a game between 2 top 10 teams meaningless, but what is UConn doesn't really have a ton to gain here. I mean, they're good. They've already won the Big East. They're already the 1 seed. They're going to be probably a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. So it certainly feels like a spot where Hurley can rotate his guys and, get guys minutes. Marquette games in general have flown over 150 lately. 164, 160, 152. And then there's that game against DePaul where I think Marquette dropped 100 and there was 176 in the game. The last one to stay under 150, Joe, was this matchup against UConn. But also you have to understand that UConn got out to like a 25, 30-point lead, 20-point lead. I think it was 81-53 final. And both teams just kind of like, there was a white flag waved and it was just kind of like, let's go through the motions for the final 6-7 minutes. And games like that typically don't go over. But if UConn isn't like totally up for this one, if this isn't like a home run UConn effort, I think it's gonna show up on the defensive end because that's where it showed up against Creighton. They gave up 42 to Creighton in the first half. This is an elite defensive UConn team that if they're not totally tuned in here, I think Marquette will find ways to score. And you got to remember that even though Kolek played in that first meeting, he wasn't super effective. Marquette was 5 for 23 from 3. I mean, you almost have to think that those numbers, 36.8% from the field, you have to think those numbers they should improve. I mean, just based off of like Marquette's still a pretty good team and they've hit, better than that most of the season. So I think the Kolek injury is probably accurately reflected in the spread. I would say like 5.5 is about right for him not playing, assuming Iguodaro does play. But where I think it's a little bit understated is in this total. I think that if Marquette was at full strength here, you probably see a total in the mid 150s. Instead, it's in the low 150s. And Joe, let's not forget how live Marquette and Shaka Smart have been as an underdog since he's shown up in Milwaukee. They've played great as a dog for years. They sort of relish being in this role. So I don't think Marquette's going down without a fight here. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to play against UConn, especially after what I saw on Sunday. Very, very impressive. Maybe the most impressive team I've seen in person so far this year. And I had seen Houston the week before. But I would consider playing the over. I think you're going to get a pace that's fast enough where if either team are even remotely efficient on offense, you've probably got 150 and you probably got a winner there.
I got to tell you, I mean, this is another one of those Shaka Smart as a dog spots that has been very profitable over the years here. And I could not have been more impressed with the effort they gave against Creighton. I mean, they ended up, pulling away there at the end, but that was a back and forth game without those two there from Marquette. So I wouldn't expect them to roll over tonight in any way, shape, or form either. Going to be a good one in the Big East, no doubt about it here, guys. And we've got a couple of more games that are best bets from these guys that we're going to break down for you. Do want to remind you, though, if you're new to us here at WagerTalk TV, hit the subscribe button, guys. Get access to all the latest content that we've got, all the big games, of course, game previews, more best bets, everything you need to know about all of the big upcoming games across the sports betting landscape. is just a click away. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, become part of that Wager Talk TV family. All right. So we've got best bets in the house here. And Brian Leonard, you are going to go back to the Big East here, and you're going to take a look at one of the most frustrating teams all year long, Villanova, taking on Seton Hall here tonight, who really thought they might sweep UConn. That was just not going to happen. But what do you think about Seton Hall's chances tonight against Nova?
Yeah, both these games that I've talked about here, I put up as free plays on the site. So if you want to go back and read the analysis again, you can do that on the site. I do have 2 plays up in college basketball, 2 plays up in hockey tonight. And of course, we're running really well in both those sports. You can pick up our entire card for today or just our top plays over at the website. Yeah, Villanova, Seton Hall. I've been on the Wildcats a lot this year. I've had some success. If you can pick out the spots that they're going to play well. The Wildcats look to have survived that 5-game mid-conference loss streak. They've won 5 of the last 6 entering this contest, and the only loss was to the team we talked about here, Connecticut, that national powerhouse team. So they blew out Seton Hall in the earlier meeting 80-54 and have won 8 straight games in this series, and yet they're a slight underdog here. It's around a pick'em situation. They finish off league play Saturday at Creighton. But I like the way Villanova's playing. This is the time of season where Villanova's had great success over the years. We expect them to continue to have that type of play against a team they've dominated. When you take a look at Seton Hall, at first glance, you'd be very impressed by their 18-11 record, 11-7 in league play. But they've had a terrific season, but we can't get over how poor their offensive effective field goal percentage is. Only 49.4. You don't find too many teams that have won 18 games that their effective field goal percentage is less than 50%. It doesn't happen very often. So maybe it's defense. But then when you take a look at the defense, it's a 49.3. So they only have a net 0.1 advantage when that comes to their effective field goal percentage on the season. That tells us they're winning in other ways. But when it comes down to when you play in really good teams at the end of the season and the tournament, you've got to be able to shoot better than what they've done. I think that's going to come and haunt them here today. Villanova's playing well, and they've dominated this series 8-0, like I said, the last 8 games. I'll take Villanova in the near pickup situation here against Seton Hall.
All right, Nova, it is here tonight. Looking to get it done. Don't forget to make sure you visit Brian Leonard over at WagerTalk.com. Of course, best bets are locked and loaded for today. And boy, oh boy, here, Trig. Back till it all begins with LeMoyne and ends with LeMoyne here, taking on Fairleigh Dickinson tonight. You and I have talked about this conference, this team. I think they're laying, 4.5 here tonight against FDU. So what gives here? Do the Dolphins get it done, or is it FDU we're looking at?
So, Joe, I did a preview for this conference. It's going to be up a little bit later today, where I did say LeMoyne at 14-1 was pretty good value to win this tournament. And I did a preview that also highlighted, the good home records of the top 4 teams that are going to host these games, with LeMoyne being one of them. They're the host here. And if you go back to Wager Talk today, I talked about Wagner against Sacred Heart on that show. And what I'm seeing here is the books really are forcing you to lay a premium with the home teams. And I just don't know that the home court edge is big enough to warrant that. So it's important to note that these home teams have won. They've done well win-loss wise this year, but you got to remember that that's over the context of like a long, grueling season, travel from city to city. Now we're in a conference tournament. Yes, LeMoyne is hosting this game, but this is do or die. This is the season on the line. It's something I kind of talked about earlier on Wager Talk today with Wagner against Sacred Heart. Like, yes, Sacred Heart has a pretty nice home court advantage, and their metrics and splits are really good at home. But should they be a 5.5 point favorite? Probably not. I kind of feel the same way about LeMoyne. They've had a really good season at home. I believe they're 9-3 on this floor. It's their first year in Division I. It's the first time that a lot of these teams in the Northeast Conference had to come to Syracuse to play a game. Remember, a lot of this league is Connecticut, Metro New York. There's a couple teams out in Massachusetts. So, that was all sort of in the context of like the regular season. The season ended Saturday. These matches have been announced for a couple of days. Fairleigh Dickinson came up to Syracuse a couple weeks ago and won. That's one of LeMoyne's 3 home losses this year. And it was a game where, the Fairleigh Dickinson press definitely bothered LeMoyne. LeMoyne couldn't make a shot. I believe there were 5 for 33 from 3-point range. And Fairleigh Dickinson handed them a loss. If you go back to the first meeting, Fairleigh Dickinson led for a lot of that game and went completely ice cold in the second half. So, a loss. So both of these teams have won on each other's respective home floors. But I think that that Fairleigh Dickinson game, the first one in Teaneck or wherever they play, was a little bit deceiving because they went ice cold in the second half down the stretch. If I was going to put this on one player, like I love Kai Cleary for LeMoyne. He's a kid that transferred from Ball State, barely played there, and comes here as a grad transfer and has been one of the best players in this league. And LeMoyne does have veterans. So even though this is their first year in D1, it's a pretty experienced roster. But Ansley Almanar for FDU went off in a game where his team could do absolutely nothing a couple weeks ago. He dropped 30 and willed Fairleigh Dickinson to a win on this court where they're going to be playing tonight. It just comes back to the number for me, Joe. I make this more like 1.5 or 2. I think the books have really priced up these quote unquote home teams in the conference tournament. And this is no different here. Now you're asking LeMoyne to have to win by 2 possessions. I don't think the atmosphere is going to be any different from any other LeMoyne home game. I don't know if Syracuse, New York even knows they have a second Division I team at this point because there hasn't been many people at these games. They can't go to the NCAA tournament. So I don't think that this is going to be like some sort of like, oh, well, now there's going to be a crazy atmosphere. There's going to be a few, there'll probably be 600-700 people at this game. I just don't give them more of a home court edge than they've had. So for that reason, Fairleigh Dickinson plus the 4 seems like the right play here.
I did hear that maybe Brian Power holding a keg party on campus at LeMoyne tonight pregame. So we'll have to see if we can get any photos of that for you because that feels like a good time. Also, let me ask you here, Trig, 5% best bet, locked, loaded, ready to go here tonight?
Yeah, I got a 5% play. As you can see, my dogs are freaking out right now. The UPS guy or the Postal Service guy is here. It's raining out. I can't let him outside today. It's too cold, too rainy. So sorry about the dogs barking. I think they're going to be barking in the NEC tournament. But yes, I do have a 5% play. It's not an NEC tournament game, but I am 8-1 on my last 9 5%ers. 2-0 sweep in college basketball last night. A couple of dogs that got home with Dartmouth and New Hampshire. 9-3 college basketball run, 8-1 on my last 9 5%ers. And that's the only play I have locked in for clients tonight. It's up now on my page, wt.buzz/AT.
Oh, I see. Good to go. Brian Leonard, how about you? Locked, loaded, ready to go here tonight?
Yep. 2 hockey and 2 college basketball plays. Not the ones we discussed on the show here. It's a real strong card, even though there's not a lot of games. I was able to come up with 4 plays. We've been very good last month or so. In fact, we're at number 3 in college basketball the entire season. And like I said before, we're only releasing 2% plays. So both of our plays today are 3% plays. So hopefully we can get a sweep going today.
I love it. I mean, only 3 NHL games here. You got 2 of them locked and loaded, ready to go. So you like the games, guys. Both of them ready to roll here tonight. I would encourage you to visit them over at WagerTalk.com. Both Brian Leonard and Adam Trigger ready to roll here tonight. Of course, guys, just a quick reminder, plenty of great content here at Wager Talk TV for you. Plenty of big game videos here with previews. Of course, more best bets from across the slate of handicappers here at WagerTalk.com. So knowledge is power. We got plenty of it here. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. And, of course, hit the like button. We certainly appreciate the support. And that'll wrap it up here for today on this Wednesday. The madness is almost upon us. Well, it is in a little way, but it's about to get more madness, more college hoops, more craziness coming your way, and we've got you covered all week long here. So we'll be back again tomorrow, another edition of the College Basketball Tip-Off Show. Until then, best of luck with all your plays. We'll see you again soon.